Hello everyone, just a quick word from your friendly editor/husband. For all of you who listen to So I'm Watching This Show and own an Android device, do me a favor. Go to the Google Play Store and download the Podcast Republic app. It's a fantastic app that allows you to get all of your favorite podcasts directly on your Android devices. I use the app and love it. I can search for the podcasts I want to listen to, select them as favorites, and have them all just a click away. Make sure you set So I'm Watching the Show as a favorite so you don't miss any new episodes. Again, the app is Podcast Republic, available on your Android device. Thanks!
So I got new glasses.
Oh, you did? The ones that you ordered?
Yeah, the ones from Warby Parker. They came today.
Oh, now we don't have to...
They are not a sponsor.
Now we don't have to send you to the island to fix your eyes.
Oh, hey, that's such a good segue. And I was not expecting it. Amazing.
So, I'm glad that paid off.
Very well done.
Hello, everybody. I am Will.
And I'm Kristen.
And this is So I'm Watching This Show. On today's episode, I'm excited for it. I think it's going to be interesting. It's a deep cut. I can't imagine people are clamoring for this, but
I mean, it only just came out.
Well, sure. But I mean, it's like it didn't even get, or it barely got a theatrical release. Like,
sure.
It's not
okay. I get what you mean.
It's not like a big movie, but it's very much our brand. And there is a lot to say, good, bad, and indifferent, I would say. Would you say that?
Yeah, I agree.
So before we get into it, we're trying to work on our professionalism. I did want to point out that if you enjoy our show, you can rate or review us, that it is extremely helpful, ratings and reviews. It helps us get found by other people, and it puts us up there in the stats, and it makes us popular and gives us money. So please, if you are a fan and feel so inclined, do that.
Yes,
also,
definitely.
We have a Patreon.
We sure do. So it does link out from our website, soimwatching.com, and we are currently covering Riverdale, but starting this coming Monday, the 16th, we will be going back to doing 911.
Shut up. Really?
What?
Shit. It's March. Shit. Ugh.
Yeah. It's
okay.
I was like, why?
Oh my God.
Did
I was
you not know
I was like, we got like 3 months till 911 comes back. Shit.
No, those 3 months have passed.
Life is like an hourglass glued to the table.
Yeah, it's never ending. So yeah. We will be once again covering that, and that's it for the Patreon right now, though we are in the midst of talks about making some changes with potential for merch and stuff, so stay tuned.
We are threatening to watch Angel. We've started. We have not gotten far.
Yeah, so if you want Angel content and, you're willing to part with 3 of your hard-earned dollars per month, then let us know, because that is likely going on the Patreon at some point,
as soon as we can.
At some point in Q2 of 2020.
And we also are threatening to do stuff like some trailer reviews and even just like little clips. We have a couple of deep cuts that never got released. Like if you want to hear us talk about Mary Queen of the Scots for 30 minutes.
Yeah. Or the Lighthouse. We don't have a spot for that yet.
So, yeah, and we're planning on doing more. And then finally, and this is the most exciting, but we have partnered with the app TVCO. That's TVCO. And it is a social media platform where you can in real time watch your favorite shows with people around the world. And so we are currently hosting our own watch party for the CW show Katie Keene. Yay. It is a mixed bag.
It is a mixed bag, but I'm having fun with the experience.
And so you can download this app and you can tune in and watch us watch Katie Keene. And you can even interact. And we try to message back in real time and all that. So it's really fun. It's really exciting. I think it's definitely the kind of thing that could go places. It's one of those like, oh, this could be the next big thing. So lastly, which this might come up, we also have a book. It is called Fairy Tale.
Yeah.
And it is about fairy tales, but it is not for children. It's not like adult, but
yeah. Every time I say that it's like a book for grown-ups, I have to be like, it's not pornography.
No. It's not erotica. There's there's like 1 or 2 love scenes that are like story based, but it just is very sort of when I pitch to people.
To white.
Yeah, I say yes. I say it's very Gossip Girl meets Game of Thrones. That's the tone. So it's like, if you want to live in a world or you want to see a world where the traditional fairy tale princesses are also kind of like socialites and celebrities, and there's like media and fashion and adventure, and then shit starts to go down and shit starts to get real, and little by little the fantasy elements come in. That's what it is. So you can find that. It links from our website, right?
It does link from our website. There's a little tabby at the top that just says fairy tale.
And I did mention fairy tale because there's a slight chance that it might come up in this review.
Okay. Yeah.
Would you think so?
Yes. You mean this movie that was literally ripped directly from your subconscious?
Is that the reputation?
100%.
When we saw the trailer.
Yeah, is exactly you.
When we saw the trailer, your husband Will was like, somebody needs to check on Will because
did they have to kill you to get this out of your brain?
It's very much my bag, baby. So, okay, yes. So the movie, if we didn't say, I cannot remember because that introduction was so long. The movie is called Paradise Hills. And I would go as far as to say bafflingly called Paradise Hills. I don't know what that has to do with the movie at all.
Well, I mean, I think it's just the name of the facility.
No, I get that, but it does nothing to sell the movie, I think.
Correct.
I was like, that's not... I mean, The Island is a more effective title than Paradise Hills.
And we already had that movie.
Mm-hmm. So it is a sci-fi fantasy film. It is from first-time director Alice Waddington. And it was written by Brian Deleeuw, Deleeuw.
Sure.
And Nacho
Vigalondo.
Okay, Vigalondo. I was like, I practiced these. I did, but enough time has passed that I don't remember.
Before we get too far, I listened today. This is relatively off topic. It's just about pronouncing names. I listened to the Pop Culture Happy Hour about Portrait of a Lady on Fire, and we were saying the director's name wrong. It's Siyama.
Siyama, okay.
Yeah, I was like making a hard C sound, and I was like certain and confident in my pronunciation.
Well, I pulled up videos, and every video I found, someone was saying it differently, so I was like, fuck if I know.
All right, well then at least we were consistent within the video.
I try, and it's the kind of thing that, especially in this ever growing and changing global world we live in, we absolutely do need to take the time and care to learn people's names and pronounce them correctly. Having said that, I do want to say that sometimes when it is a name that you are unfamiliar with, it can be difficult.
Correct, yes.
It's a little bit easy when I'm like, Kristen, I've heard that name before. This will be easier for me to retain.
Correct.
So, yeah. So anyways, where were we?
You were just getting through the writers.
Okay. It's her first time. It's a first time director, and she is Spanish, and it was filmed in Spain. And I think knowing that gives a slight, in my opinion, there's a hair of a slightly disjointed feel to it. And I think when you take into account an international crew and audience, sometimes it's like, okay, I can see how things like that might happen.
Knowing that now, it does feel more like a foreign film a little.
Mm-hmm.
It, honestly, like obviously slightly less competent and all around brilliant, but kind of like when Bong Joon-ho made Snowpiercer, which is all in English.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a hair to the left.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like it's just off center.
And not in a negative way. We don't mean that negatively at all, but there's something just slightly skewed where because when you're translating things, it's like Shakira's music. It's like when you listen to her English language music, it's slightly odd in a way that you're like, this is definitely this person's second language. And I think it gives a very unique glimpse into their personality. Like when
it's also like a whimsy.
Yeah, like when you have to translate something into another language, the choices you make say something about you, I think, and it's very, very fascinating.
Definitely.
So, I did want to say that this movie fell into my radar like 2 weeks ago because I randomly saw the poster and I was like, what in God's name? How have none of you, every single one of you are fired? How have none of you told me about this?
Because I've known about it for like 6 months.
Yeah. Why would you not bring it up?
I just assumed you saw the same stuff on the internet that I did.
No, I did not see this fantasy poster with Emma Roberts, Awkwafina, Danielle McDonald, Isa Gonzalez, and Milla Jovovich. I did not.
Yeah, I mean, that's my failing, but...
And so it was kind of exciting because I was like, well, when does it come out? What do I do? And I looked it up, and it premiered at Sundance last year, and it was already out, which was kind of exciting that I could just download it. It VOD, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And there is that. It is available, and it was relatively cheap. I think it was $6 on Vudu. I can't quite remember, but I just got it. And so we needed a slot, and we needed something, you know, not easy, but something concise. And so I was like, let's cover this new movie. So broadly, what did you think about this movie?
I liked it, and it was also so weird, but I liked that it didn't end up being what I thought it was gonna be.
Okay.
Like I had a theory about halfway through, and I was wrong.
Okay. I want to know what that theory is, because I
will tell you
likely
later.
have something to add to it.
Yeah.
But I definitely liked this. I am definitely glad that I saw it, and I am definitely glad that I gave it money. It's one of those movies. It has like a 60 on Rotten Tomatoes, and the consensus is very yes, but, if, then. And it's like, it is not a masterwork. It is not a perfect piece of storytelling or cinema. However, it does enough things well and interestingly that it is worth your time and consideration, I would say. And 100%. I think there's a fair amount to read into it in a way that I can't decide if I think the movie would be better or worse for delving deeper into the themes. Is it better for us to read into them, or the movie to club us over the head with them?
Sure, I get what you're saying. I also am not sure about that, but I was getting vibes from so many things while watching this, one of them being obviously the island, like we talked about a minute ago, but also weirdly Sucker Punch.
Yeah.
I was getting some vibes from this, and I was surprised at how deftly it was handling the juxtaposition of those things. Like, it really... I wasn't embarrassed for anyone involved at any point.
No, even when it's not working.
Yeah, 100%. It was still good enough to keep me entertained.
It is a lower budget movie, and I won't go as far as to say that's apparent. It was more so apparent to me because I have those eyes. I went to film school, and I know what I'm looking for and looking at. But it has a budget of about $10 million, and it looks like it should have been 25 or 30.
I was going to say... I mean, there's a lot of basics, I guess, like all the girls are mostly wearing the same thing and whatever, but it's very lush. And everything that Milla Jovovich wears is a goddamn work of art.
She was so good in this.
So good in this.
Both she and Emma Roberts, I think, are so perfectly cast for this, because I am a big Emma Roberts fan. However,
same.
Having said that, I think she's just a fine actress.
Yeah, she does not have her Aunt Julia's chops. She's in the middle of her Aunt Julia and her dad, Eric.
Yeah. Well, I think her brilliance and her blessing is that she seems to understand what she can and can't do, and she seems to stay firmly in her lane.
Absolutely.
And I think it works.
You don't see Emma Roberts popping up in Oscar bait movies, you know?
No. And I mean, frankly, I wouldn't be surprised if one or two came along, but it's almost like that's not what she's trying to do. She doesn't have that desire. It's not the Sally Field, you really like me. It's like, she's totally fine being king of the trash pile over on American Horror Story. You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
And I didn't mean that as shade. I was like, she's very, I mean, she is Chanel, you know, it's like she is very good at doing what she does. And
also rotating king of the trash pile with Evan Peters and Sarah Paulson is like, that's a pretty good place to be honest.
I think all of the acting in the movie was fine. It was competent. There's an air of melodrama that if anything, it's almost like I wish it was more. It's almost like I wish they leaned into the campiness a little bit more. It feels kind of reserved.
Yeah. It takes itself just a scotch too seriously. Like, it could have handled being just like 1 to 5 degrees less serious.
Absolutely.
I think that it would have benefited from that.
So if you know anything about this movie, its reputation is for being stunning, for being lavish, for being beautiful. And they do things with production design and costume and, hair and makeup and budget. Like, the production design is Lila Collette and the costume designer was Alberto.
I think it's Alberto Valcarcel.
Okay.
That's how I would say it.
Yes.
Having looked at it for the first time right now.
And I have to say, I feel like you know what I'm going to say, but I'm going to say it anyways. Fake flowers. I abhor fake flowers. And this was head to toe fake flowers. I will say about my fake flower thing.
Some of them were digital.
Yes, some of them were digital. And the hero, a hero prop or something is something that your main character wears. The like hero flowers that Milla had in her hair were real. And that at least that. If something is going to be in the foreground, it needs to be real. And I know flowers are expensive, but at a certain point.
Yeah, look, 6 million euros is not that much right now.
But it's like, how much are you spending on fake flowers? Like, at a certain point, the over-under is gonna... But
I get it. I get your point.
They did so much, and they built more of the set than I anticipated. I thought I found a couple of behind-the-scenes stuff, and I figured that those were all just locations they found. And a lot of those, like, white structures are things that they actually did build. But
neat.
So
it was beautiful.
Beautiful. And again, there is definitely a plot. There is definitely a twist. And there's definitely a gratifying ending. But there's the way that they go about it is not, in my opinion, the most efficient.
It's not the best way, I guess, to go about it. But I found it compelling throughout in a way that I'm happy I watched this movie.
So the basic plot is that Emma Roberts plays Uma, and she's a young bride. We see their wedding, and then we fast forward, or we rewind 2 months and see her waking up on this mysterious island, apparently called Paradise Hills. Do they ever actually even say that, though?
No.
So
I don't think so.
And it's basically a like reform school for troublesome girls to like where they fix their flaws and make them pretty. It's very The Island meets Stepford Wives. So in a sense, it's
almost like finishing school.
Yeah, you kind of have a sense where it's going. And, spoiler alert, we're going to start getting into the stuff. It does pretty much end where you think it's going to, but it doesn't exactly get there the way you think it's going to.
Right.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
So at this school, Uma meets some other girls. Aquafina, her name is Yu. Danielle McDonald, her name is Chloe. And Isa Gonzalez, and her name is Armana. And they are other girls that were sent there by their families. And we get glimpses into this world that I wish the world was fleshed out a little bit. There's a little bit more. There's talk about uppers and lowers, which I assume is upper class and lower class. And
yeah, so to the point where they started saying that, and I had to look it up to see if this was based on a YA novel. And it's not. But I was like, I wish you would just be saying rich and poor.
Me too. I desired more. I was like, because I don't think that the world fits as neatly into upper and lower, period. Like, I was like, there needs to be a middle class. Like, there needs to be stuff.
Well, it does feel like a near future-y kind of thing where like that could easily have gone by the wayside, but there's not enough gone into that part of it. I
understand that, but I think in a lot of YA they have a tendency to be like, well, in the future the world is broken into 4 categories, and I'm like, that's not enough categories for the entire world. You know what I mean? It's like there's more nuance.
The Hogwarts houses.
Yeah, there's more nuance between people.
What is it? Brave, smart, evil, and miscellaneous.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not sure about that.
Yeah. So it definitely has that vibe. And I could have used a little bit more. And this is precisely where, let me finish. So she meets these girls. She kind of falls in love with one of them. Yeah,
I feel like they didn't push that hard enough either.
Well, yeah, because it was Armana was definitely in love with her. They make that clear.
Yeah, definitely.
But it could have been, it was very vague as to whether or not Uma reciprocated. And it was kind of like a little bit, but also not. And that was confusing in a way that I am here for confusing sexuality, but it came off as sloppy versus ambiguous. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. And I think one of the things that could have been more interesting had they, put more of a a button on it is the fact that Uma isn't even thinking of that. She's literally only trying to find a way to get off this island and go home in a way that, like, if that weren't her main goal, I think she would have reciprocated more. Which we do kind of get the implication of at the end.
What were the stories in the middle that they were telling the Duchess? They were telling her about losing someone. And did that ever come back into play?
I don't think so. Because what I thought is that Amarna was...
At first they're talking about each other.
Yeah, but I thought Amarna was, like, feeding the story to Uma so that she would have something to say. But I'm not 100%.
Because when Marcus showed up, I was confused. I was assuming that Uma was a lesbian. And I was like, oh, okay. And Marcus showed up. And for starters, I didn't trust him from the moment he walked in. And
it did seem very convenient.
Very convenient. And again, with the mild spoilers, he winds up to be not trustworthy, but not in the way you think.
Yeah.
He has a Rolf moment at the end. Only he doesn't
Rolf
blow the whistle.
Oh, The Sound of Music?
Yeah.
You are very in a Sound of Music mood lately.
Apparently.
Yeah.
But he doesn't blow the whistle. So it's like in the very end, he does end up being a good guy. But I was waiting for him to be an illusion. I was waiting for him to be a trick that they were playing on her to get her to open up. But no, his story appeared to be real. When he found out she was sent to this place, he was like her poor lover. And when he found out she was sent to this place, he followed and got a job there in an attempt to help her escape. And I was like, oh, okay. That was not clear, but sure. I mean, it was because he said it, but...
Yeah, but he was being paid.
Yeah.
So it's like but then he did let her go. So it was like, I feel like he flip-flopped a little.
Well, he says at the end where he was like, they told me you wanted to be here. And so I don't know. It doesn't hold up to a ton of scrutiny.
It does not. It really, you pull at those threads and you don't have a sweater anymore.
But it's really pretty. It's a really pretty sweater.
Pretty.
So don't pull at the threads. It looks really good. What we come to is these girls are there. It turns out that they are being Stepford-wifed somehow. We're not entirely sure how, but they drug them at night. So they like conk out and then they perform some kind of procedure on them. Yeah. That's never explained because I was waiting for straight up brain transplants.
Well, it's weird because, okay, what I was deducing is that the girls that we know and see the whole time are definitely having something done to them in the night while they're drugged with that creepy looking milk. But I think the majority of the surgical procedures are happening to the other girls. The, like, what were they calling themselves? Substitutes? Yeah. And so that's the part that gets fascinating to me and where this movie is most like The Island, because the substitute girls are all lowers. And they're like, we had to fight to get here and we're going to take your life, basically.
I assumed that the substitute girls were going to be clones because that makes sense. And I was really annoyed when that scene was playing out and it was the one Awkwafina, real Awkwafina and substitute Awkwafina confront each other. And substitute Awkwafina is like, I'm poor from fighting you guys as you rich people's wars. And so I fought and clawed to be here. And then they gave me a bunch of plastic surgery to look like you. And now I'm going to go pretend to be you while you go die in a forest. And in my mind, I was like, there has to be a more efficient way to be doing this.
Well, it also, to me, was really misguided because Awkwafina was a poor person.
Well,
she says at that point that her parents were lowers and she was living with a rich aunt and uncle.
Which is where what I said earlier about a middle class, because when I started putting my own metaphors onto the movie, it worked better. And so at first I was furious that the substitutes were just other poor girls. Mm-hmm. But then when I thought about it, I really liked the notion that they had agency of their own and that they were making choices to do this. That if you look at this movie as a metaphor for class warfare, which I believe is in there, I don't think this is a reach, but it's like poor people, you know, we're in a very eat the rich place right now.
Yeah.
And frankly, I don't think we have to eat the rich. I think we can just tax them. But that's not exciting for science fiction fantasy. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I'm like, let's start with taxing them first and see where we get. But
yeah, agree.
So it's like, it's very easy to be like, I have nothing and these people over there have a lot. So I'm going to buy into this system and become one of them. And then when you're face to face with one of them and you realize, well, wait a minute, all of our lives are unique and intricate and maybe we're not so different after all. So it's like, in that regard, I wanted the substitutes to have agency. And I really enjoyed that when we get to it, Emma Roberts' substitute ends up in cahoots with her. They realize that they should not be against each other, but it's just like what we had built up to until that point wasn't a strong enough foundation for that.
Agreed. I definitely agree. Like Emma Roberts, like Uma was suspicious the whole time, but it was like she was not suspicious in the right way. And also it goes from a science fiction place to a like hardcore fantasy place on the turn of a dime.
And it's never explained.
Never explained. Not at all. And that's the thing. It's like, I mean, this movie was long enough. It's an hour and a half. I don't know that it needed 20 to 30 extra minutes.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I do feel like we might have gotten just a scotch more of the things that we needed, because it gets, with the substitutes thing, that's obviously where it's the most like The Island. And I like that they went the way they did, because spoilers for The Island, when the Ewan McGregors meet each other in that movie, the real life Ewan McGregor is like a bad guy, and he like tries to turn them in or whatever. And so I liked that they turned that on its head in this. But again, there was like not enough build up to that, and then there was absolutely not enough build up to like flower monster Milla Jovovich, which was so weird.
Well, awesome. I think
awesome for sure, but so weird.
I think it would make a great crux for a sci-fi fantasy fairy tale adventure, in which your villain is like a magic flower lady who's like ambiguous and just represents a form of corrupt feminism. Like,
in case everybody can't tell, Will is absolutely not veiled at all talking about his own book.
I mean, magic, there's a woman's body suspended in vine and briars and rose thorns.
Yeah.
And Milla Jovovich smacks her face to look younger, and like, while magic flowers are growing around her. I'm not saying that is written in my book, but that is 100% written in my book.
It's pretty close to written in your book. Yeah.
You would know, you wrote it. So
yes, I did help write it.
So yeah, that aside, I have to. I couldn't not. I mean, were you thinking that watching it?
A little.
Okay.
Yeah. I thought about Fairy Tale a lot watching this.
Well, it very much visually looks like what we wanted to accomplish with Fairy Tale. But when we got to that part where she was literally wearing white and pink orchids, I was like, okay, you know what? Yeah. I was like, I have time-stamped drawings on Instagram.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I suspect that Alice Waddington saw those.
No, I don't. No, I'm not.
And was like,
I'm absolutely not going that far. But regardless, so and again, it was fascinating, and I loved it. I was like, this is so awesome. This is so cool. I just wish the movie had earned it.
Yeah.
And again, it's like I did the acrobatics to make the movie make more sense in my head in a way that I'm not saying that the movie definitely is saying that, but it also definitely isn't not saying that. And I haven't gotten to it, but when you look at, because there's definitely the class stuff, there's definitely gender and sexuality stuff. And there's a huge, huge shadow of patriarchy, which, of course, obviously, that's what we're dealing with right here. And Milla Jovovich, her character represents one of my favorite archetypes that doesn't get used a whole lot, but it's like, there's a way you can look at this, that she is a female misogynist. And so it's like, she has aligned herself with the powers that be, with the male powers that be, because it benefits her personally. And by doing that, she's betraying her gender. And I actually find that kind of stuff fascinating, especially when you really, really dissect it, which this didn't, like it.
Yeah.
They didn't fully explain. Well, they didn't even remotely explain where her magic came from. Like not even 1 ounce.
Well, she kept on talking about her mother.
Okay.
But I wasn't sure if that meant like her birth mother or like Mother Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Or what's happening here?
Which, I mean,
or
so
like
you could
Hecate.
you could lean into like because this is a little bit more sci-fi than fantasy, but for me, it's like I don't want a Poison Ivy origin story. Like I don't want that she accidentally drank a potion and now she has like
Sure.
I want the fantasy.
Yeah.
So it's like then we need a little bit more fantasy somewhere else in order to make this fantasy less jarring because it is jarring when it happens.
Yeah, because like I said, it is straight up sci-fi until that moment, and then it's fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, I mean, okay, but...
And there's a slight distinction, I mean, believe it or not. Like,
no, there definitely is.
And it's also, tonally, the movie falls apart a little bit because it's very, very sad in a way that the movie doesn't fully acknowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Because all of these girls are dead. The ones that we know, and even the ones we don't know. But quite literally, Uma is the only one that comes out of this. And her surrogate.
I mean, if Emma Roberts knows anything, it's how to be a final girl.
I tell you. And the movie doesn't fully, like, that's something that even, like, Sucker Punch, which we've said before, but we will fight for Sucker Punch until our dying breath. But Sucker Punch does a much better job of exploring that melancholy in a way that this movie ends in kind of like an, oh, you, like.
Mm-hmm. Well, it also, like, as much as we've been praising Emma Roberts, it is a very, what was that thing you used to say why you didn't like Pink? She looks like she's going to shake up a soda and pour it in your face. And it's just like, she's a very like, I'm the rebel. And it's like, you don't get into the sadness of her situation where like her formerly rich family is poor now and her dad's dead. And so she's sort of been sold into this rich marriage to a man who is clearly a prick. We just like don't get into that enough.
It was so much. And it was so because it there's a point in the movie where she's I don't think my father, the inventor of holographic necklaces, would be too pleased to hear about this. And which at first when it was happening, I was like, I must be misunderstanding something. And then sure enough, the movie's like, no, you understood it perfectly. And I was like, okay, sure. Because her family was wealthy. And then again, with like the commentary, there was too many. It was half baked. There was too many half commentaries. Mm-hmm. And I mean, believe me, I love Jack of all trades, master of none. But it's like when you don't stick the landing on any of the 7 things you're commenting on,
We're like, it's fine to halfway comment on 6 things as long as you fully comment on the 7th. And it was just like a lot of soup that didn't have anything in it.
Or properly question all 6, but just vaguely suggest things is not the same. Suggesting and questioning is not the same thing. And so it's like,
agreed.
Because her father had this like necklace empire, this like blind mag hologram necklace empire.
It was a memory locket.
Okay, a memory locket. That makes more sense.
Well, it just is like, it's more specific than just a hologram because it's like you can store a memory.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and then like a corporation bought into his empire, or they like acquired it, and it like, which we're talking about like capitalism and industrialization and stuff. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the 6th and 7th hat on this movie.
Yeah.
And so he then killed himself, and I guess that's who Son was. Son was the son of the man who bought.
Yeah, I mean, he like ran the company now.
Yeah, okay. And I'm not going to lie, there's a part of me, and this is another part that makes me kind of retroactively like The Substitutes, because a good 40 minutes of this movie, I was like, I don't know, this is a lot of work. I might just relent. You know what I mean? Like, I'll be a Stepford wife. It's fine.
That's the thing about you and me is we are so for sale in a way that, like, we're not made for this type of world.
For crawling through the dirt.
No, definitely not. And the thing is you would never know because they would kill you in your sleep and then someone else would take over your life.
But I mean, like that's kind of where I did end up liking the surrogates, is because it's like, and I mean, if we want to put an eighth commentary on here, it's kind of like how we treat, like the farm and the food industry and stuff. It's like,
as long as I don't have to see it.
Yeah, as long as I don't know what's actually happening, I'll completely take part in this enterprise and stuff. So the substitutes are signing up eagerly to be a part of this. And then when they're actually confronted with how the sausage is made, suddenly they're conflicted. And so it's like, I really applaud the movie and appreciate it for tackling so many of these things. I just don't think it succeeded with hardly any of them. And
I for sure agree.
So it does really depend on what you want, what you're looking at it, and what you want from your entertainment and your movies. I think if you're a slightly less discerning viewer, you'll probably just love it. If you're even remotely into sci-fi, fantasy, YA, Emma Roberts, Milla Jovovich, then I mean, you'll love it. You'll absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm pretty discerning about stuff like this, and having just sort of complained about it for half an hour, I still liked it a lot.
Well, it's
like I had a lot of fun watching it.
Yes, and so my point is, if you're not discerning, because the movie definitely does point to point to point. I mean, it answers the questions in that regard.
Yeah.
But like it pivots, I'll say. But if you're trying to get somewhere deeper from it, then you'll fall flat. And so it's like, and people like you and me, sometimes we're far more inclined to watch a noble failure than a boring exercise in excellence. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's way more inclined to watch a noble failure. I mean,
than half of the Academy Award nominees for Best Picture this year.
100%. This was the type of movie that I'll always prefer just watching.
Would you ever watch The Joker again?
Never.
Would you watch
it twice.
This again?
Yes, absolutely. I'd watch this again. I've watched Joker twice, and that's 2 times too many.
Yeah.
But I would watch this. I mean, I would watch this so many more times just because it's like fun and it's fun to look at, and the performances are just the right side of campy.
It does make you think, and that's why I'm like, you could accuse me of reading too much into it, and I don't know that all of it, like the class stuff and all that. I'm not saying that that's definitely was intended, but it wasn't not intended. So I wanted to ask you, because you said something, you had an idea about where you thought it was going. Did we touch on that, or did you want to?
Not really. So I realized at one point I thought I had figured out why you told me there was a spoiler in the captions at the beginning, and it was because I thought they were doing body swaps, kind of like you said, like brain transplants, and so I thought that Amarna was going to be in Uma's body at the wedding.
That is precisely what I thought. And that is precisely what the spoiler was, is if you were watching this movie with the captions at the wedding, when she starts singing, the caption says woman impersonating Uma.
Okay.
And I was like, huh.
Yeah.
What an odd qualifier for.
Interesting. So it was like halfway through when Amarna gets up there and starts singing that same song. I was like, ooh. And that's not what ends up happening, but...
yeah, and so that's precisely it. Because when Amarna said that she sang, that's why I was like, okay, so they switch places, and that does not happen. And again, I mean, pour one out, because Amarna is dead in the woods, just dead, and it's like I said, it's a lot sadder than the movie instructs you to. I also I'm less gutted about Aquafina, although I don't know why she died. I mean, she just inhaled that gas and then suddenly died, but
I think she inhaled too much of it.
Okay. And I mean, that sounds silly. Of course, inhaling gas could kill you, but the way the movie was depicting it was odd.
Sure.
I was the most hurt by Chloe, especially because if she was going to die, then I wanted her to be the one that stabbed the Duchess.
Sure.
Instead of the substitute.
Well, that brings up a good point, because you're right about Amarna being just dead in the woods. But then at the very end, real Uma goes off on her own with that butterfly clip looking for her.
I think she was just looking for the paradise.
Okay.
Maybe that's Paradise Hills.
Maybe. Okay. That makes more sense, because I was like, why is she still looking for her? She must know she's dead.
I mean, unless her substitute was the one that was in the woods.
No.
You're drawing the line there?
Yeah, definitely no. Her substitute was not the one that... Oh, wait, you mean Amarna's substitute?
Oh, yes, but no, Armana's substitute was in the world because we see her married to the husband.
Yeah, to the man. Exactly. Yeah. But no, it's real Uma that leaves her life.
No, yes, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
And the substitute, Uma, stays in this... Well, she doesn't stay in the marriage because she killed the guy, and that wasn't a foolproof plan. But
no, but it was pretty good.
Well, no, it was pretty good, but it was like she still like she should have sent someone up to find his body because they still
someone else, you mean? Well, I mean, she left that woman and then like not 2 minutes later.
And I mean, they heard the thud. I understand that, but I was like, this still isn't quite with as rickety as this society seems to be for women.
Definitely.
Like, I was like, I don't know that I would fully. A beautiful, absolutely stunning wedding dress, especially considering it's all things I've seen before. Mm-hmm. But something about the way in which they were put together really floored me. Like, I really felt like I didn't know that furry poof sleeves and corsets and like flapper hair needed to go together, but they do. And green lipstick. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it all worked in a way that it definitely should not have.
Do you want to know something fascinating that'll blow your mind? All of those scenes in the castle and everything, that is all green screen. They didn't find a real ballroom, and there were not nearly that many people at that party. It was all digital.
Wow.
So we're getting good. It was very once upon a time, if you will.
Yeah, but still.
So, yeah, fun, interesting. I got more out of it theoretically than I did in practice. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
And more like this. I mean, God knows we've had to watch movies just as mediocre about men since the dawn of time. So
you're not wrong.
Let the ladies have a mediocre sci-fi fantasy.
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
How many movies have we watched with guys driving ugly cars around for a long time? Like,
yeah, let the ladies have as many mediocre sci-fi fantasy movies as they damn well please. As
many as Milla Jovovich has gowns to wear.
Which is infinite. Again, we talked about her when we
saw... Perfect use of Milla in this.
Yeah, perfect use of her. We talked about her when we saw Hellboy last year, the bad Hellboy. The one thing you can never take away from Milla Jovovich is that she is an exquisite beauty, and she maintains that this year in 2020.
And she embodies one-dimensional evil queen, so...
Love it.
Yeah.
You love to see it.
We love to see it.
We love to see it.
So, on that note...
All right. You can follow us on Twitter @SoI'mWatching, Instagram @SoI'mWatchingThisShow. Like we mentioned at the top, we are also doing a Patreon channel, which links out from our website, soimwatching.com, where we talk about lots of different shows. And we are currently in talks to revamp that, so definitely stay tuned for updates. And other than that, you can rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes or wherever you listen. And that's it for us.
Bye.
Bye.